I thought he was going to explode on the spot. He then went storming off, and he returned 15 minutes later with the Deputy Foreign Minister of Afghanistan. These people are about to be bombed by the most powerful country on earth, and a diplomatic incident was unfolding as a result of my underwear. I don't want to embarrass the men here, but I mean, we're not talking anything small, salacious and lacy. We're talking big, comfortable Bridget Jones. So the Deputy Foreign Minister said to me, "Will you please remove your undergarments from the line?" And I said, "Look, this is the female wing of the prison. There are no male prisoners. The only men around at the moment are you two. If you clear off, there will be no men. By the time they're dried, nobody's going to be any the wiser." He said, "Yes, but the Taliban soldiers live above the female wing of the prison. And if they look out and see those things, they'll have impure thoughts." I'm looking at my underwear in a new light now. I said, "There's a very easy solution to this." He said, "I knew there would be." I said, "Tell your men not to look out of the window." No, that's impossible." I thought, I cannot believe this. You know, America didn't need to fly over in B-52s and bomb these people. They should have just parachuted in a regiment of women soldiers waving their underwear, and the Taliban would have gone. But it gives you a remarkable insight into the modesty of these people and the way they felt about issues like women's underwear. So the argument continued and went on long after the clothes had dried, and nobody emerged as a real winner, but I did get my dry clothes back. The next day, the 9th day, I was feeling really crotchety. I'd had 3 or 4 really rousing sessions with the Christian services. And in fact, you know, although the Taliban had banned singing and they'd banned music, they allowed them to sing, but they drew the line at music. And I am eternally grateful to this day that they confiscated their tambourines and guitars. But so I'm feeling really wretched and bad-tempered and thinking, I'm never going to get out of this place. I can't take much more of this. And the Deputy Foreign Minister returned with his sidekick, a man I called the Smiling Assassin. And he said, "We want to ask you a few more questions." And I said, "No, I'm done with answering any more questions. I'm finished with you people. I've had enough." And I then launched into a series of insults and curses and swearing. And then I rounded it off with something that I've never done in my life before, I've never done since, and you would get sent off a football pitch for doing it. I spat at them. And then I went into my cell and I started shaking. And a couple of the Christian girls said, "Did you just do what we thought you did?" And I said, "Yes, I've gone beyond the line. I've gone beyond the wire. I've pushed it, and I'm in serious trouble now. I can sense it." And just then one of the female prison officers came in, and which was translated for me later, and she said, "Tell the English woman she is going to be flogged because she cannot do this to high-ranking people." So I'm standing there rigid with fear, cursing me and my big mouth, and wondering, is there going to be a public flogging? Will Al Jazeera be there to record it? you know, what is going to happen? And I'm standing there, rigid with fear, and about 10, 15 minutes later, we heard the gates open in the courtyard. And Heather, one of the American girls, came running in and she said, "They've returned. Yvonne is going to be flogged." And just then, 3 of the Christians threw themselves down at me and grabbed onto my clothes and started saying, "Lord Jesus, don't let Yvonne feel any pain." And I'm standing there looking at them thinking, you know, you're making it worse. And just then the smiling assassin walked in, and he had in his hand the one thing that I wanted, the very thing I had gone on hunger strike for 9 days earlier. He had in his hand a satellite phone, and he strutted around the cell and showed off this satellite phone. And he said, all of you can ring home. You can all ring your families today. Apart from her, the English woman, she's horrible and she spat at us and she has to be punished. So it's interesting, this is how the most evil, brutal regime in the world decided to punish me. They allowed my cellmates to ring home, which was fantastic for the Germans. They hadn't, and all of them, they hadn't spoken to their family for 2 months. It was an opportunity to ring home and say, look, we're okay, we're holding out. And then one of the German girls went to the smiling assassin and made a special plea and said, look, Yvonne needs to talk to her daughter. Please let her call home. And he said, no, she's a horrible woman. She has to be punished. And as I say, that was my punishment, which I, looking back, think, shows a degree of wisdom and insight on their part, which is more than can be said for my behavior. And my only mitigation is, look, I hadn't eaten for 9 days and I was starting to get fractures. That afternoon, the senior officers returned and they removed me without warning, got my things together and said, you're going. And then they took me out of the prison and upstairs into the Taliban sleeping quarters. And one of the senior officers had vacated his room and said, you complained about the prison downstairs, is this good enough for you? And it was a very nice room by Afghan standards. And he said, tomorrow you will go home, inshallah. And I said, what is this inshallah you keep using at the end of every sentence and it never ever happens? Of course, I now know inshallah means God willing. And they put me in this room, they gave me the key, I locked myself in. I had a fantastic view over the city of Kabul, looking right up to Kabul Hill where all the anti-aircraft units were. And I sat on the bed contemplating my future, wondering if and when I'd ever get out. They kept saying, tomorrow you will go home, inshallah, but inshallah it never happened. And so I was wondering how genuine they actually were. Why had they removed me from the Christians? Was this my last night on earth? Would they execute me tomorrow? I really didn't know. All of this was going through my mind. And then suddenly there was a huge rip, as though somebody had just torn the sky open. And there was a great big light. And it was the start of the war. That night, America and Britain dropped 50 cruise missiles on Kabul. You can hear a cruise missile from 20 miles away. These were coming within a quarter of a mile of the prison.